right, welcome back to part 3. And I won't make this long because I'm almost out of Coke Zero. Okay? Welcome again to another Tuesday night. I missed some of you, a lot of you. Veronica, thank you for sticking in. If there's extra credit, I might have to provide that. But you know, it's online. We all try to do something a little different. And we have work schedules. All right, so let's get started. One thing that you're going to have to do is read aloud to your students. Now, because you're adults and we love to read aloud, I'm going to read aloud a little bit for you. However, did you notice in the video where we watched When a Lesson Goes Wrong that the teacher read a chunk and then they discussed? And then the teacher read another chunk of text and she modeled and they discussed. And the same thing can go. So like in my classroom, when I am actually teaching, I mix it up sometimes. Sometimes I read a chunk of text and I have the students discuss the essential question because it's really honed in on the chunk of text. And that gets their hook. And that gets them hooked into the text. And then sometimes I read a chunk to model how to use a literary skill or piece of informational literacy skill. I model that and what my think aloud would be. And then the students, I would guide them through the next chunk. I would read it and they would actually kind of work with me to practice the skill. So let's move on now that I've bored you half to death. So now in Ben goes with this lesson, and I've tried to move the lesson to a PowerPoint here. Okay. So here are all the wonderful standards that she has. If you notice, don't ever do this. Don't ever do this, because you are supposed to use your whole objective for teaching all these standards is to get to 2.10. But if you notice, Veronica, this will be really good for you. Look right here. It says, because this is a second grade standard, by the end of the year, they should be able to read grades 2 through 3 text complexity. So if you're just getting second grade text and you're not trying to push your students up to a higher level text, then they're not going to get to that third grade text complexity. And when they're tested at the end of the year on certain tests, whether it be STAR, because they don't get MAP testing, which is the Mississippi testing, but there are certain tests that they're tested on, and if they're not ready for that third grade text band, then they're not really ready for third grade. So you got to think about beefing it up. And then, so try to choose something different. Here she has her historical events, scientific ideas. She has language and language, lots of language, okay? I would try very hard to be diligent in which ones I'm choosing. For example, use words and phrases acquired through conversation, reading, and being read to respond to text. That's good. That's still language, and they're using language to respond. And look, it's appropriate because they're using connections. And then identify real-life connections between words and their uses. And again, she's still making connections, so it looks appropriate here. Speaking and listening, okay, and then she has a writing standard. And then you have objective statements. I can do these things. And for me as a teacher, I always put a standard behind it. If I can't tie a standard behind these objective statements, what's the point of me doing it? Then we have your essential questions. Pause for a minute. I'm going to get my husband to bring my charger. Jeremiah. Oh, never mind. It's in here. Sorry. Veronica, don't you love being in our class? Forgot I left my charger in here. I hope I've given you some whimsical comedy. All right, and so we have our essential questions. These are a lot for second graders. And it kind of blows my mind. I would narrow it down. But again, this is just giving you a little bit. Okay, here's our hook. our engagement. And here's our sequence, or their sequence of her small group. And this is her assessment. Okay? So there's her assessment. Yes, mouse, work. Okay. It looks like her hook is to do the brainstorming. And so they would go into the brainstorming and do all of that wonderful stuff. Okay? And then she says in the lesson, or this person says in the lesson, now read Now and Then. And they give 10 to 15 minutes. And then they're going to referencing Now and Then, students write facts about Ben in their language arts journals. However, she's using a Think, Pair, Share. The only thing that I would do differently is when I'm reading Now and Then, I would stop and have my inner conversations because that's important. Or I would actually start doing some coding of the text for the students. And so let me give you an example of what is inner conversation. So listen to me as I'm reading aloud. Now and Then. The Modern Inventions of Ben Franklin. Written and illustrated by Gina Beretta. Now and then, we think about, back up. I said that wrong. So if it doesn't make sense, well, it should be now and then. That's right. Okay, now and then we think about Ben. Dr. Benjamin Franklin, to be precise. And we think about his many inventions. Inventions here originated more than 200 years ago. Wow. More than 200 years ago. It was as if Ben would see into the future. Almost everything he had created is still around today. What? For instance, now our newspapers are filled with illustrations. Ben was the first to print a political cartoon in America. The cartoon encouraged the American colonies to join together or die like the disconnected snake. Wait a minute. American colonies and Dr. Benjamin Franklin? Does that mean he was one of the first people over here to kind of be in our government because it says political cartoon in America? And what does it mean to die like the disconnected snake? I don't know what that means. Okay, so that's just an example of how to stop and have an inner conversation. Did you notice that I showed you some fix-up strategies that you would do with your students? Like I read this wrong. And I read it wrong on purpose to see that, hey, if I read it wrong and I went back, it doesn't make sense this way, I need to go back. And you have fluency standards. I know in Mississippi have fluency standards attached that are not in the scaffolding documents. And so you're going to be in charge of fluency and phonetics. So it's very important that you understand and show how students to read. Now, I don't know about this text because if you notice, what second grader is going to know a lot about this? So be mindful of that. When you're going through here, I wonder if Now and Then is a second grade text or is it a third grade text? It'll be interesting to know. And this is a 2-pager. I like how they've highlighted some words. And you don't know if Now and Then is a text appropriate for this grade. See, they're reading Now and Then, which I just did. And there's the book. We might have to look that up. Let's pause and look it up. Just to see. Just to ease our minds to say, is it Now and Then? Okay. And I'm looking that up, and I want to know the Lexile level. And so if I'm looking up the Lexile level for Now and Ben, here's the Lexile band. It's a 640 Lexile level. And I know by looking at a 640 Lexile level, let's see, does it give me more information? No, I'm going to have to go back. So if you go home, you can look at the Lexile level conversion charts. If I can actually find it today. If not, I'll print it off for you. Oh, let's do current grade levels. Third grade. Well, we're doing second grade. Okay. They've changed my website. I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. Okay. Don't you hate it when they change stuff? I mean, this was like recently. So, Now and Ben grade level. Yeah, but see, they changed it yesterday. It says submit, but it won't. I wanted a, they had an easy reference to show you the correlation. And so here's Now and Ben by Scholastic. Usually I can find it better on Scholastic. Just trying to give you real-time instruction. Okay, so it says grades 3 through 5. So this is a very complex text for second graders. Something I wouldn't do first of the year, nor when you're going to teach in October. So that would be interesting. I'm not sure if, I mean, it's the third grade text, but wow. But that just shows you, that's why we pulled this example. So here's Ben Franklin, and this teacher has actually gone through and pulled some items. And then what is the difference between an invention and discovery? And remember, this is second grade. So she's pulled all these wonderful sources. I say she, I don't know. And all of this stuff, look at all this. For a second grader. And then they're going to a poem. And then they're reviewing here. And then you've pulled out the adjectives, and they're building a poem. Okay, that's the lesson. And so here's her sequence. Read, discuss, revisit the circle map. What is the difference between? But then look at her standard. Describe the connections between a series of historical events, scientific ideas, or concepts and steps in a technical procedure in a text. Now think about that. What do you think, Veronica? Do you think just by doing this quick look, do you think she's on point with her standard? And then look at her assessment. They're going to do a comprehension test and a presentation of their inventions. So they have problem cards. And then they're going to work in their groups to build. They're going to build and test their invention in 15 to 30 minutes. Right. I don't think so. I mean, look at this. Is this realistic? So your job to do in your, and this is something you can discuss in your PLCs. This would be fun to discuss in PLCs. You don't really get the collaboration. I try to build collaboration in the groups. But your job is to go through this lesson and identify, what are the students trying to do? Go back and look at the second grade. Yes, it does. It's more activity-based, and from what I can tell, she's not focusing on any of the standards. She does pull out adjectives, but it really doesn't connect to what she's trying to do. So if you looked at the scaffolding document for 2nd grade, it makes me wonder, did she have it to build off her lesson? Because you're supposed to build your units and your lessons using your end product. And your end product is this scaffolding in the document here. And so this is what you're looking for. These are the concepts that the student should be able to do. And so I wonder if you would go back and look at your 2nd grade scaffolding document and look at, is there any evidence of her trying to do these items? Do you see this evidence in her lessons? And is she trying to teach these concepts? And so to me, if I was trying to break down in her lesson, she was doing her I can statements. Well, this would be her standard. I'm giving you 9th grade still because I have it pulled up on my screen. But then this is where I'd pick my I can statement, because you know you're not going to be able to work on this whole standard in one lesson. You're going to break it apart. Wherever it says and, wherever there's commas, and wherever it says as well as. Oh, thank you. Yeah, look at it. And that's another thing. This is a story. If you noticed in Ben, Now and Ben, is this a story or an informational text? That's the next question. Now we understand the concept of vitamin C. Ben was an early, and so look, I don't know if this is an informational text or if it's, and that's the next thing you need to ask yourself, the modern invention. So this has to be an informational text. That's what it looks like. But we don't know that. We don't have a summary of the text. We don't have the Lexile level or the grade band for the text. We don't know what this text is or anything for the students. And so be thinking of that. Because you pulled a literary text, but she's teaching informational, right? And so we don't know what type of text she's pulled because there's just not enough information. And that's just going to get you started. We can just really dig deep into this lesson of what we would do different. And for you in the module, I've provided for you, I went ahead and provided for you your online text set, because you're about to build your own text set. And I've pulled for you every strategy we're going to use and where those strategies come from. You may choose. And I've also put in a doc form the template for the text set. So I've tried to make it very easy. So start looking at these things. So go ahead and start bringing these out. Because when we come into our next lessons for the modules, this is what I'm actually going to show you how to do and how to avoid this Now and Ben incident. Take a little bit of time and read through that lesson so you won't make the same mistakes, okay? I hope this has been helpful. I hope the videos haven't been too gruesome, and I appreciate you watching. They're here for you if you need to reference. Thanks for watching and joining in.